I'd like to welcome all of you to the second Dharma School Sunday service for the new 2014-2015 Dharma School term. And this is also our first Sunday with Dharma School classes. Today we are also celebrating our Betsuin Grandparents' Day. We know that the National Grandparents' Day was last Sunday, but it would not work out for us to be able to celebrate Grandparents' Day last week here at the Betsuin. So we're doing it this week. And last week I asked all of the kids to bring their grandparents, and all of the grandparents here to bring their kids, their grandchildren, and I asked all of the parents to bring their parents and their children. I think that about covers it. So do we have a hondo filled with grandparents today? Grandparents, raise your hand. Oh, we have quite a few. All right, thank you for coming. In Buddhism, we often hear about the teaching of karma. Karma is a word that has actually made it into Webster's dictionary, but Webster's definition of karma is really lacking. In Webster's dictionary, karma is defined as destiny or fate. But in Buddhism, karma is not destiny. Karma is not fate. Karma simply means action or activity. In other words, karma encompasses all of the activity, all of the causes and conditions, all of the people, and all of the events that have had to happen for this moment to exist right now. All of the causes and conditions, all of the people have been, and events that have had to live and happen for each of us to exist right now, this very moment. And what we do now, the activity that happens now, will of course karmically create the future. And there is absolutely no doubt that our parents and our grandparents are among the most significant people whose lives truly allow us to be here today. If they did not exist and live the lives that they have lived, we would certainly not be here today. And so we are celebrating, especially today, our grandparents, who will always remain significant and essential parts of the karma of our lives. For because of them, we are able to enjoy this day. So many of you here today, I know you have been very fortunate to have had your grandfathers and grandmothers a part of your lives growing up. Their love and their life lessons are very much a part of who you are today. I remember when my dad passed away in 1999, his grandson, my nephew, spoke at the service and he said, "The most important lessons of life that I have learned, I learned from my grandpa." Then he went on to talk about his grandpa with deep love and appreciation. And I was so pleased and so proud that he understood and appreciated the life-shaping impact that his grandfather has had on his life. Unfortunately, I am among the few who have never really had a chance to know the love and care of grandparents. Both of my parents were Kibei, which means they were born here in America, but they were raised in Japan. So all of my grandparents were living in Japan, in the Hiroshima area. The only grandparent of the four that I had, the only grandparent I was ever able to meet was my mother's father. And I met him only because he came to visit us in San Francisco a couple of times when I was a young boy. My younger brother is 6 years younger than me, and he just retired this year. I'm so envious. 60 years old, and he's retired from teaching. When he was born, I remember again, this is the second time I'm jealous of him. When he was born, I was really jealous of all the attention he received from absolutely everyone. Before he came along, I was the baby of the family. I thought I was doing pretty good job of being cute, but I guess they weren't satisfied and they had to have another. Well, my grandfather, my mom's dad, came all the way from Japan just to see him. And as I was trying to prepare for this Grandparents' Day message, Patty said to me, "It's time to share that story about your grandpa again." Well, it certainly remains a memorable moment in my life, and it is about my ji-chan, my grandpa. So here it is. This is really a very famous story within the Oshita family. And I remember Jean Kashiwada once telling me that it was one of her favorites. So here goes. I actually have not thought about this incident for quite a few years now, but I really think that this is a great example to encourage us to consider and to appreciate more deeply the karmic events of our lives. And hopefully this story of my grandpa will help us to refresh our Dharma eyes in viewing the world. When my ji-chan, my grandpa, came from Japan, I was a little over 6 years old. My older brother and sister were in school all day. And then after school, they would go to Japanese school every day, Monday through Friday. And Mom would pick me up from the first grade in the early afternoon and bring me home. And it seemed every day after we returned home, while my grandpa was visiting from Japan, he would take my younger brother out in a stroller for a walk. Who knows where? All I know is they always went out for a walk. He put him in the stroller and off they would go. And each time they would come back, it would seem they would come home with something that indicated they had a very good time. I'd see an ice cream wrapper or a popsicle stick or an open box of candy or maybe a balloon. And they always seemed to have had some kind of fun somewhere, and I wanted to go. Many, many times I begged my grandpa to take me too, but he just loaded up the stroller with what's his name, and off they went without me, leaving me at home with Mom. Finally, one day, I really must have got to him because he said, okay, Hiko, let's go. I'll take you. So I got on my tricycle and pedaled alongside of my grandpa and the stroller, and I felt great. He was finally taking me out too. And of course, I had no idea where we were going. And now that I think about it, my grandpa probably didn't know either. But for those of you who are familiar with San Francisco, we lived on Geary and Divisadero. And up Geary Street we went, carefully crossing the busy intersections, meandering through the neighborhood. It was an adventure. And I don't think I'd ever ridden my tricycle so far ever before. And all along, I know I must have been wondering, where are we going to stop for some treats? Maybe ice cream? Maybe get a balloon? Finally, we must have made the turn somewhere to go back towards home. And it seems all of the easy slopes that we had been going up had brought us to the top of a steep hill going down. And so down we started to go. And that's when I first learned that tricycles don't have brakes. My little trike began to roll rather quickly down that hill, faster than my little feet could move. The pedals started to begin to just whirl around so fast they were like a blur of motion. And my little feet couldn't stay on those whirling pedals. I was totally out of control, screaming down that hill, headed directly for the intersection at the bottom. That hill was so steep that there was a young teenage boy who couldn't ride his bike up the hill, so he was walking, pushing his bike up that hill. And I'm guessing he must have been about 16 or so. Well, this young boy looked up the hill and saw me on that trike, flying, screaming down that hill. And he dropped his bicycle, he stepped in front of my tricycle, and he stopped me from flying into that intersection. As I look back, this young man very likely saved my life. And over the years, looking back, I had given this incident some thought. And for a while I thought, my grandpa had a choice at the top of that hill. There was a moment, he knew he had a choice. He could have let go of the stroller and grabbed the tricycle, but nope. He held on to that stroller and he said, "Sayonara, Bob. Good luck with that tricycle." This is a true story, and I do recall my grandfather being totally shaken. I remember him talking to this young man, bowing to him deeply many, many times, trying to thank this young boy with his limited English. And when we got home, he was still quite shaken as he told my mom what had happened. Needless to say, he never took me out again. As I mentioned, this story is one that I feel might make us reconsider and appreciate more deeply the karmic events of our lives, and also help us to refresh our Dharma eyes in viewing the world. I wonder sometimes where that young boy might be today. Does he realize the impact of his quick thinking and unselfishly heroic act? And I realize that I am here today because a complete stranger stopped my tricycle from running into an intersection when I was a little over 6 years of age. Somewhere out there, there's a man now in his 80s who saved my life. And how lucky I am to have had such fortunate past karma. All of the events of my life, and this one in particular that I know of, allow me to be here today. And when I think of my life in such a way, how can I ever think about complaining about anything? I'm grateful just to be here right now, just as I am, living my life just as it is. When our Dharma eyes open to realizing we each have fortunate past karma that allows us to be right here this moment today, when our eyes open to this karmic reality, we cannot help but begin to live with a deep gratitude. In Jodo Shinshu, we call Onembutsu. And when we think of Amida as being immeasurable, unbelievable, caring and understanding, wisdom and compassion that has surrounded and sustained us in our lives every day, we see that Amida is everywhere. And in my life, this young 16-year-old who dropped his bicycle and stopped my trike, to me, is also Amida. His caring and understanding is also why I am here today. There's a poem written by a Jodo Shinshu follower that, paraphrased, says something like this. I did not ask for it, but the sun shines warmly upon me. Namu Amida Butsu. I did not ask for it, but the flowers bloom and brighten my day. Namu Amida Butsu. I did not ask for it, but my friend smiles and calls out my name. Namu Amida Butsu. And I would add, I did not ask for it, but a young boy stepped in front of my tricycle and saved my life. Namu Amida Butsu. In all of our lives, there are So many sacrifices and acts of kindness that have allowed us to be here today. So many sacrifices and acts of kindness of people we know, and so many more people that we could never know. And today, our Sacramento Betsuin Dharma School celebrates the loving care, kindness, and sacrifices of our grandparents, whose lives allow us to live this very moment today. When our Dharma eyes open to this karmic reality of life, we cannot help but begin to live with that ever-deepening gratitude we call a life of penance. As Socho Gui would often say, our life is not just our life. Our life is made up of the kindness, sacrifices, and efforts of others. And most especially today, we appreciate the karmic bonds of love we have with our grandparents. So on this special Grandparents Dharma School Sunday, give your grandparents a especially warm, loving, and appreciative hug. I'd like to thank you all for coming this beautiful Sunday, September morning, and I hope you will all stay and enjoy the activities we have for our special Grandparents' Day following the service. In closing, please join me in Gassho. The Dharma is simple. When our Dharma eyes open, we see things just as they are and realize that we have so much to be grateful for in our lives. I did not ask for it, but the sun shines warmly upon me. I did not ask for it, but the flowers bloom and brighten my day. I did not ask for it, but my friend smiles and calls out my name. I did not ask for it, but a young boy stepped in front of my trike and saved my life. In all of our lives, there are so many sacrifices and acts of kindness that allow us to live this day. So many sacrifices and kindnesses of people we know, and so many more from people we could never know. And today, our Betsuin celebrates the loving care, kindness, and sacrifices of especially our grandparents. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.